Family and who you're born with is who you die for.
Boys like Lincoln, ones who've been abandoned, they're always looking for a home.
He served his country with honor and distinction.
When he returned from the war, Lincoln ended back up over at Sammy's. Now Sammy owed the Italian mob a whole lot of money, and he needed Lincoln's help. It's a damn shame what happened. It breaks my heart.
You know something, Lincoln? Possibly the baddest motherfucker I ever laid my eyes on. You shouldn't have said no.
I know what Sal did to you, Lincoln, but nothing you do will bring any of them back. Sal Marcano deserves to die. I won't argue otherwise. Kill him. But let that be the end of it.
That's not enough!
It's enough if you say it's enough.
This isn't about bringing them back, or even exacting some street justice. It's about making that bastard feel what it's like to lose everything. Watch as I take it all away from him.
It was February 27th, 1968. Mardi Gras. The streets of New Bordeaux were alive with music and masks, but Lincoln Clay and Georgie Marcano had no time for celebration. In the shadowy expanse of Bayou Phantom, they finalized their bold plan to rob the Federal Reserve. Driving an armored truck toward their target, Georgie asked Lincoln about Vietnam. Lincoln's response was chilling. He recounted a woman who, during an evacuation, sacrificed her own baby by tossing it into the water, choosing instead to save a pig. Her reasoning? She could always have another baby. As the reserve loomed ahead, Georgie warned Lincoln to leave his gun behind to avoid suspicion. He apologized in advance for the racial slurs the guards might hurl, assurances that did little to ease Lincoln's growing tension. Inside, they posed as members of a burn crew, tasked with disposing of old bills. The job began smoothly. Forged IDs accepted, $238,546 in tow. But tension simmered beneath the surface. In the burn room, things took a violent turn. With guards neutralized and the vault unlocked, they began bagging cash, until an alarm shattered their fragile advantage. The Federal Reserve erupted into chaos, leaving them to fend off guards while waiting for their backup to break through from below. A week earlier, on February 20th, Lincoln returned home from Vietnam. The air was heavy with emotion as his foster brother, Ellis Robinson, greeted him warmly. As they drove through New Bordeaux, Ellis shared plans to expand his drug dealings into heroin, despite their father Sammy's disapproval. Ellis saw opportunity, but Lincoln was hesitant, yearning for a quieter life. At Sammy's bar, the mood was celebratory. Sammy welcomed his adopted son with pride, and Father James, a mentor and fellow veteran, shared wisdom about the struggles soldiers face upon returning home. That night, Lincoln's exhaustion found him sleeping in the basement, amusing Ellis with his unceremonious habits. The next morning, however, brought trouble. Lincoln awoke to Sammy and Ellis embroiled in a heated argument over money. When Ellis stormed out, Sammy admitted they were in conflict with the Haitian mob, but withheld the details. Duty called Lincoln to Father James's soup kitchen, but his plans for a fresh start in California were already in jeopardy. The weight of loyalty and unresolved tensions tethered him to the streets of New Bordeaux, drawing him into a storm he couldn't yet foresee. February 21st, 1968, 6 days before Mardi Gras. At the Warm Hearts neighborhood kitchen, Lincoln Clay served gumbo with a practiced smile, chatting with the locals. But the warmth of the moment was shattered when gunfire erupted. The Haitian mob stormed in, bullets flying. Lincoln's instincts kicked in, and within moments, the kitchen was quiet again, but stained with violence. Returning home, Lincoln demanded answers from Sammy. The truth was grim. For months, the Haitians had been bleeding Delray Hollow dry, targeting their lottery racket. The losses left Sammy's gang behind on payments to Sal Marcano, a dangerous position to be in. Sammy decided it was time to strike back. He tasked Lincoln and Ellis with taking out the Haitians at their camp in the bayou, warning them to keep the violence far from home. Lincoln moved through the camp with the precision of a soldier, eliminating resistance until he reached Baca, the Haitian leader. After a tense confrontation, Lincoln killed him, ending his threat, but the aftermath was far more haunting. A battered woman emerged, screaming at Baca's corpse. She had suffered unspeakably under his control, and despite Lincoln's assurances that it was over, she fled with a grim warning, "It's never over." On the way back, Ellis confided fears about their father. He worried Sammy was losing his grip, leaving them unprepared for the day they'd have to take over. Lincoln dismissed the thought, insisting they had time. But back at the bar, Sammy expressed his own fears. He admitted to watching the news during the war, dreading the day Lincoln's name might appear on the list of the dead. Though Lincoln downplayed it, Sammy's words carried weight. Luck doesn't last forever. To steady the situation with Marcano, Sammy sent Lincoln to meet Sal at the country club. Sal had other plans. Impressed by Lincoln's handling of the Haitians, Sal proposed a change in leadership. He wanted Lincoln to take over Delray Hollow, bypassing both Sammy and Ellis. Shocked, Lincoln declined out of loyalty to Sammy, earning Sal's respect. Still, Sal pressed forward with plans for the Federal Reserve heist, offering Lincoln a way to secure his family's future. As Father James would later reflect, Lincoln didn't yet grasp the cycle he was trapped in. In their world, problems never truly ended, they only shifted. That was how Lincoln found himself working for Marcano. February 27, 1968, U.S. Federal Reserve. Lincoln and Georgie are holding off guards in the Federal Reserve Vault, waiting for Danny and Ellis to break through the floor from below. But things get messy when Danny uses dynamite to widen the hole. Instead of just a gap, the entire vault collapses into the canal below, trapping Danny's leg under rubble. The day before Mardi Gras, February 26, 1968. Thomas Burke, Danny's father, planned this heist hoping to win back his neighborhood, Point Verdun, from crime boss Sal Marcano. He invented a special drill for the job. That night, Lincoln and the crew drank beers and finalized their plans, ready for the big day. Years later, Thomas's daughter Nikki would blame him for her brother Danny's tragic death. Mardi Gras chaos, February 27, 1968. The group escapes the vault through the city's canals, with the police in hot pursuit. Danny, injured and unable to walk, is carried by Lincoln as they blend into the Mardi Gras crowds. After finding a payphone, they call for a getaway car. When police start closing in, Lincoln creates a distraction, leading them on a wild chase before reuniting with his friends. Despite the chaos, the group makes it back to their bar to divide their haul, $2 million each. Sammy, Lincoln's mentor, declares their freedom from anyone's control. The betrayal. Sal Marcano and his son Georgie join the group, pretending to celebrate. Suddenly, Georgie shoots Lincoln in the head, and Sal's men kill Danny, Ellis, and Sammy. Before leaving, they set the bar on fire, leaving Lincoln for dead. Father James finds Lincoln barely alive and saves him. In his final moments of consciousness, Lincoln tells James to call John Donovan, a CIA operative, an old friend. Recovery and resolve. Lincoln spends months recovering as the nation faces major events. Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination sparks riots, and Robert Kennedy is killed. Meanwhile, Donovan investigates Sal Marcano's crime empire. When Lincoln regains strength, Father James pleads with him to let go of vengeance. But Lincoln is determined. It's not just revenge, it's about making Sal feel the pain of losing everything. As Lincoln leaves, James warns him this path will destroy him. Lincoln replies, turning the other cheek doesn't work in the real world. The road ahead. Fueled by betrayal, pain, and loss, Lincoln Clay begins a journey to dismantle Sal Marcano's empire, one piece at a time, leaving nothing but destruction in his wake. Lincoln drives to Sammy's bar with John Donovan, discussing Father James. Donovan worries the priest might cause trouble, but Lincoln trusts him. As they talk, Lincoln reflects on Sal Marcano's offer to give him control of the Hollow, which he refused. He blames this decision for the massacre of his family, Lincoln declares his new plan, not just to take the Hollow, but to claim the entire city. Donovan warns Lincoln that most of the city's cops work for Sal, so fighting his men will bring trouble. Arriving at the charred ruins of Sammy's bar, Lincoln is haunted by memories of the betrayal. In the basement, he recalls Sammy giving him a pocket watch before the war. With resolve, Lincoln shaves his head and face, preparing for the fight ahead. Lincoln visits Donovan's tactical center, where Donovan introduces him to advanced surveillance tools stolen from the FBI. He suggests Lincoln work with the Haitian mob, now led by Cassandra, the woman Lincoln once saw as an enemy. After tracking her down, Lincoln proposes an alliance to take down Marcano. Cassandra agrees, but only if she controls the Hollow without interference. Lincoln accepts, gaining her network and manpower. Cassandra reveals that Marcano replaced Sammy with Richie Doucet, a sadistic man who hunts and kills young women. She urges Lincoln to target Doucet's operations, starting with the prostitution and heroin rackets. Lincoln learns from The Voice, a Haitian informant, that Merle Jackson runs a brothel in Sammy's old club, Perla's. Merle forces black women to serve white clients. Lincoln takes down Merle's enforcers and frees the women, eventually killing Merle and handing Perla's over to Cassandra. Donovan briefs Lincoln on Charlie Kincaid, who runs a heroin ring out of a church. Lincoln dismantles the operation, eliminating enforcers and pressuring Charlie. Knowing Charlie has a baby on the way, Lincoln convinces him to flip and work for their cause. Cassandra takes over the heroin racket. With Marcano's Dixie Mafia weakened, Lincoln hunts down Richie Doucet. After killing Doucet, Lincoln displays his body on a Ferris wheel as a warning. When Cassandra questions his brutality, Lincoln defends his actions, saying Doucet deserved it for killing Sammy and Ellis. Cassandra warns Lincoln that vengeance is a dangerous path, but their alliance holds. Donovan introduces Lincoln to other potential allies: Thomas Burke, an Irishman with a grudge against Marcano, and Vito Scaletta, a former mobster betrayed by Marcano. Lincoln prepares to bring them into his growing operation, intent on building an army strong enough to take down Sal Marcano and his empire. Lincoln's war against Marcano has begun. With Cassandra's resources and new allies on the horizon, he's determined to take back New Bordeaux, district by district, and destroy the man who took everything from him. Lincoln finds Vito at Benny's Ristorante, where Sal Marcano's men are beating him. After saving Vito, the two strike a deal to work together against Marcano. Lincoln promises to help Vito regain control of his territory in River Row. Lincoln meets Connie DeMarco, who tells him about Roy Thibodeau's contraband racket. By dismantling it, Lincoln gets Roy's attention and disrupts his supply chain. Jock Blanchard informs Lincoln about Andy Toretto's union extortion scheme, where workers are squeezed for dues or denied permits. Lincoln targets the operation, weakening Marcano's influence. Lincoln teams up with Vito to capture Michael Greco, a Marcano lieutenant hiding in River Row. After a chaotic chase, they capture Greco and bring him back to Vito's hideout. Under interrogation, Greco reveals Sal's plan to legalize gambling in New Bordeaux with a casino project. Sal had feared Vito might leak the plan to the commission. Once Greco spills everything, Vito disposes of him using a chum grinder, regaining control of River Row. Lincoln reminds Vito of their deal and checks in with Alma Diaz, Vito's associate, to assist with supplying contraband rackets. Lincoln calls a meeting with his new underbosses, Cassandra, Vito, and Burke, at the Eaglehurst plantation. The meeting starts with arguments and distrust among the group, but Lincoln shuts them down. He declares that trust doesn't matter. Cooperation is essential to take down Marcano. Lincoln outlines his plan: dismantle Marcano's empire from the bottom up. They'll first eliminate lieutenants and take their territories, then move on to capos, and finally, Marcano himself. Killing Marcano alone won't be enough. The entire foundation must crumble. He also reveals Sal's casino project in North Lake. All of Marcano's money is tied up in the casino, and it's more than just a business, it's an emotional attachment. Lincoln plans to exploit this weakness to bring Marcano down. After the meeting, Lincoln discusses next steps with Donovan. Lincoln praises the photos Donovan provided, but requests more actionable intelligence on Marcano's lieutenants and their operations. Donovan promises to deliver, revealing he's recruited locals eager to share what they know about the Marcano crime family. With his team in place and a clear strategy, Lincoln sets his sights on dismantling Marcano's empire piece by piece. The battle for New Bordeaux has just begun. Lincoln teams up with Gina Kowalski, a skilled car thief who wants to take down Jack Jr. Holland, the man behind the auto theft racket in Tickfaw. Gina reveals that wrecking Holland's operations will stop his payments to Frank Pagani, weakening Marcano's hold on the area. At Port Bourbon, Lincoln meets Pablo Duarte, who shares intel about Frank Pagani's smuggling network. Pagani relies on airdrops and the Holland brothers, shipping and freight yard run by Pops Holland. With River Row under Lincoln's control, Pagani's operations are vulnerable. Donovan intercepts a call between Pagani and Tommy Marcano, learning Pagani plans to return to New Bordeaux. Lincoln plants a tracking device on Pagani's car to follow his movements. After dismantling both Tickfaw harbor rackets, Lincoln tracks Pagani to his garage. Pagani escapes, but Lincoln chases him down. Before his death, Pagani reveals the Federal Reserve heist wasn't just for money. It was to steal counterfeit plates. Sal Marcano needed an expert, Alvarez, to fix his failing operation. Donovan briefs Lincoln about Tony D'Orazio, who manages Marcano's finances from his penthouse at the Royal Hotel. To draw Tony out, Lincoln targets his men and disrupts his rackets, including construction and blackmail. Lenny Davis explains Jimmy Cavar's scheme to blackmail officials and force approval of bogus building projects. Lincoln dismantles Cavar's network, putting pressure on Tony. Harold Cawley, a reporter, provides leads on Frankie Bernard, who handles bribery and corruption. Lincoln disrupts Bernard's operations to weaken D'Orazio's influence. Lincoln infiltrates the Royal Hotel using an elevator code from Donovan, fighting through Tony's guards. In the penthouse, Lincoln confronts Tony and throws him out a window. He finds a ledger detailing Marcano's financial dealings. Depending on how Lincoln entered, he must evade Marcano's reinforcements or police to escape. With D'Orazio dead, Lincoln gains vital intel about Marcano's operations. Maria Bava, a whistleblower at DeNapoli Waste Removal, tells Lincoln about Paul Puppy Simmons, who's extorting garbage companies, dumping waste, and committing murder. Lincoln investigates and disrupts Simmons' operations, exposing his crimes. Lincoln meets Connie DeMarco, who explains Pete Santini's role in running guns and controlling shipments in Barkley Mills. Lincoln disrupts Pete's gun racket, weakening Marcano's supply chain. At Barkley Mills, Lincoln encounters Enzo Conti, an old friend of Sammy Robinson. Enzo shares that Sal's casino project is his way of going legit while abandoning his partners. Enzo reveals Remy Duval, a key player in the casino operation, is hiding in Frisco Fields under Olivia Marcano's watch. When Marcano's men attack, Lincoln helps Enzo plant explosives around the quarry, ensuring Marcano can't use it. The two escape, and Lincoln drops Enzo off at a safe house. Lincoln meets Danny Sweet Little, a boxer pressured by Johnny Two Dicks Peralta to throw a fight. When Danny refused, Peralta broke his brother's arm and kidnapped another boxer, Eddie Kenner, for underground fights. Danny gives Lincoln intel on Peralta's operation, and Lincoln begins dismantling the gambling racket. Grant Perdue confesses that Artie Higgins, a Marcano affiliate, hijacked his trucks under false pretenses and won't stop. Insurance won't cover the losses, leaving Perdue desperate. Lincoln recovers a stolen truckload and begins targeting Artie's operations. Sal Marcano hired Alvarez, a counterfeiter, to use stolen Federal Reserve plates. Panicked by Lincoln's attacks, Alvarez calls his uncle Zaraga for help. But Zaraga, secretly loyal to Marcano, betrays Alvarez. Lincoln races to the lighthouse, eliminates Marcano's men, and rescues Alvarez. He entrusts him to Father James, who promises to hide Alvarez with a Jesuit contact in New Mexico. Lincoln learns Tommy Marcano manages Sal's counterfeiting operations and runs an illegal fight ring. With help from Alcide Bennett, Lincoln enters jungle fights under the guise of a competitor. After defeating 3 opponents, Tommy confronts Lincoln, recognizing him. Lincoln is ambushed, doused in a flammable mixture, and left to burn. However, he escapes, defeats Tommy's men, and captures Tommy. Tommy reflects on wasted opportunities as Lincoln soaks him in gasoline and lights the gym on fire, killing him and sending a clear message to Sal Marcano. Detective Jim McCormick tips Lincoln about Doc Gaston, who runs the drug racket in the French ward. Gaston's network is tight, so Lincoln begins tracking his suppliers, aiming to dismantle the operation from the ground up. Lincoln teams up with Harold Cawley to take down handsome Harry Robichaux, who manages Lou Marcano's sex racket. Targeting high-rolling clients, Lincoln undermines Harry's power base and builds a case against him. Lincoln learns from Donovan that Judge Cornelius Holden, a corrupt ally of Marcano, is feeling the heat. Holden pressures Lou Marcano to increase his protection. Donovan suggests killing the judge to send a message. Lou sends Holden an armored car, but Lincoln intercepts it, executing a bold attack while the judge is on the move. The assassination shocks the city and signals Lincoln's war is reaching even the most powerful figures in New Bordeaux. After the assassination of Judge Holden, Sal Marcano's casino plans crumble. Desperate to recover, Sal's brother Lou arranges a fundraiser on his prized riverboat, Delphine, to court Senator Walter Jacobs. Lou intends to bribe Jacobs with money and scandal to secure support for legalizing gambling. Lincoln learns of the event and orchestrates an explosive ambush along the riverboat's route. The explosion stops the Delphine, allowing Lincoln to infiltrate the chaos. Lou, paranoid and ruthless, orders his men to contain the intruder while keeping the senator and himself on board, even killing the ship's captain to maintain control. Lincoln battles through Lou's guards and confronts him on the upper deck. Lou, in a panic, grabs Jacobs as a hostage, but an explosion rocks the ship, killing the senator and throwing both Lou and Lincoln into the bayou. Lincoln hunts Lou through the swamp, eventually capturing him. Lou offers bribes, but Lincoln has other plans. He leaves Lou's gutted corpse hanging in Jackson Memorial Park as a gruesome message to Sal. Lincoln partners with Jackie Grimaldi to uncover the operations of the Southern Union, a secretive group financing Marcano's interests. Chester Moreau, a key figure, profits heavily from this racket. Lincoln devises a plan to draw out the organization and begins dismantling their influence in Frisco Fields. Bear Donnelly informs Lincoln about Olivia Marcano's drug empire. Olivia employs top chemists, including Bobby Bastion, to mass-produce PCP, even using taxis for distribution. Lincoln starts targeting Olivia's labs and her elite team, unraveling her network. Remy Duval, a Southern Union leader and Sal's ally, grows furious at Lincoln's campaign. Despite Olivia's warnings to stay out of the fight, Remy rallies his supporters. Lincoln infiltrates a meeting at Cleveland Duval State Park, where he executes Remy by hanging him on a cross and setting him ablaze. With Remy dead, Sal's plans for his casino falter further. The land the casino is being built on passes to Remy's nephew, Stephen DeGarmo, leaving Sal scrambling for solutions. Olivia devises a plan to secure the casino land by negotiating with DeGarmo, planning to kill him after the deal. Lincoln, with Donovan's help, infiltrates Remy's wake disguised as a waiter. He spikes the wine with LSD, creating chaos among the guests and guards. Lincoln confronts Olivia in her private lounge, where she reminisces about her life of wealth and crime. After incapacitating her, Lincoln forces her to reveal DeGarmo's location. He spares Olivia, deeming her unworthy of death, and sets off to rescue DeGarmo. Lincoln finds DeGarmo in a waterfront building under torture by Marcano's men. After taking them out, Lincoln rescues DeGarmo and escapes. Donovan helps DeGarmo flee the city, thwarting Sal's last-ditch effort to save his casino. Lincoln meets Donovan at his motel to discuss the Marcano family's next move. Sal Marcano, now desperate and out of options, plans to make his last stand at the Paradiso Hotel and Casino with his son Georgie and their remaining men. Sal knows the city has turned against him, and his survival depends on taking down Lincoln. Donovan, preparing to vanish without a trace, thanks Lincoln for the partnership, and urges him to visit once the mission is done. Lincoln fights through waves of enemies at the casino before confronting Georgie. He expresses the bitterness of betrayal, recalling how he once considered Georgie a friend. Georgie defends his actions as loyalty to his father, but Lincoln, unmoved, avenges his family by fatally stabbing Georgie. Lincoln takes a key from Georgie's body to access the penthouse and reflects on a haunting memory of Sammy during the elevator ride. In the penthouse, Lincoln finds Sal calmly awaiting his fate. Sal pours himself a drink and reflects on the cost of his choices. He admits he never wanted to bury his son, but acknowledges the bloody path that brought him to this moment. He sees Lincoln as a kindred spirit, wired for violence, and resigns himself to death. Depending on Lincoln's choice, Sal either dies by Lincoln's hand or takes his own life. After leaving the casino, Lincoln is approached by Leo Galante, a high-ranking member of the mob's commission. Leo warns Lincoln that the commission wants an end to the chaos. He offers Lincoln a deal. The commission will leave him alone as long as he continues paying Sal's 20% cut. Lincoln agrees, knowing the alternative would bring war. With the Marcano Empire dismantled, Lincoln meets Father James and Donovan. While Donovan is thrilled by their victory, Father James is appalled to hear Lincoln is considering taking over the city himself. He reminds Lincoln of his earlier dreams to start fresh in California and warns that continuing down this path will destroy his soul. Father James delivers an ultimatum: leave New Bordeaux or lose his support forever. As Lincoln stands at the crossroads of his life, the decision is his: to seize power and rule the city, or walk away and start anew. All Lincoln Clay's endings. Lincoln Clay's story concludes with 3 possible endings, each reflecting the choices he made after defeating Sal Marcano. Ruling together. After Sal Marcano's fall, Lincoln took over New Bordeaux with his lieutenants. He didn't stop there, expanding his empire across the South. He rebuilt neighborhoods, reopened landmarks, and donated to charities, but his growing wealth brought excess, drugs, booze, and vice. Lincoln ruled as a king but lost Father James, the one person who truly cared for him. Ruling alone, choosing ambition over loyalty, Lincoln killed his underbosses. As he left, his car exploded, sabotaged by Father James, who couldn't let him become another Sal Marcano. Though Agent McGuire believed Lincoln deserved worse, doubt lingered. Some even wonder if Lincoln still haunts those who betrayed him. Leaving New Bordeaux. After defeating Sal, Lincoln vanished. Agent McGuire tracked him to California, but always arrived too late. Meanwhile, Father James received postcards from Lincoln, who wandered the world, unable to find peace. For Lincoln, escaping New Bordeaux wasn't just about leaving the city, it was about running from himself. Cassandra endings. If Lincoln stays in New Bordeaux, Cassandra's fate remains uncertain, but she likely continues leading the Haitian mob as an underboss. If she takes control of the city after Lincoln leaves, she faces enemies from every corner: the Commission, Colombians, and Cubans, but eliminates them with brutal precision. She even assassinates the governor when martial law is declared. However, her reign leads to the city's downfall, culminating in a devastating hurricane that turns New Bordeaux into a ghost town. Cassandra's fate becomes a legend. Some say she drowned in the flood, while others believe she vanished into the swamps, ruling the remnants of the city's underworld. Thomas Burke endings. Burke's fate, if Lincoln stays, is largely unknown, though he likely succumbs to his liver cancer shortly after their victory. If he takes control of New Bordeaux, Burke uses his wealth for a black market liver transplant, expanding his empire into drugs. Under his rule, the city becomes Bourbon City. But a war with Cuban gangs ends with Burke going out in a blaze of glory, taking 8 men down before his death. Since then, New Bordeaux remains lawless, with no one able to claim the throne. Vito Scaletta endings. If Lincoln stays, Vito likely continues leading the Italian mob as an underboss. If Vito takes over the city, he fulfills Sal Marcano's dream of completing the Paradiso Casino and transforms New Bordeaux into the Las Vegas of the South. With thriving development, Vito rules from the penthouse of the Paradiso, the undisputed king of the city. John Donovan endings. John Donovan's story ends in chaos. Called to testify about Lincoln's rampage, Donovan uses the moment to expose a conspiracy. Sal Marcano and others, including Senator Blake, plotted President Kennedy's assassination. When the senator denies the claims, Donovan kills him on live television, promising the rest of the conspirators will be next. He leaves the hearing laughing, his fate unknown, his name forever tied to vengeance.